And we are live. Hey guys. So hello everyone, I am Animesh from BITSAA International, a volunteer, and we have here four remarkable Bitsians with two very interesting startups, Pixxel and Pepper. They are gonna share about their entrepreneurial journey. So I request them to introduce themselves first. So Aves.
Hey everyone, this is Aviz. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Pixxel. Before this, I was part of the student satellite team with Pilani.
Before this, I was part of the student satellite team. Before this, I was part.
And it was at Hyperloop India that the inspiration for Pixxel came into being, and that's where I learned what it takes to build a team and then build hardware that can work in vacuum. And that then finally led to Pixxel. So that's about me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Aves. Kshitij.
Hi, this is Kshitij. I am co-founder and CTO at Pixxel, and I did my electrical at Pilani 2015 E3TS 01516. And apart from that, Aves and I we worked at Hyperloop together. And then after that, we started out Pixxel, and since then we've been doing Pixxel. So that's it.
Nice. Anirudh.
Hey, hi guys. My name is Anirudh. I am co-founder and CEO of Pepper Content. We started in the second year of our college at BITS Pilani. In fact, Aves, Kshitij, they're all seniors, very close friends from college. So very happy to be here. I think it's almost going to be 4 years since we started now. So BITS a lot to whatever we are today. So yeah, very happy to be here.
Thanks, Anirudh. Risha.
Thanks, anyways. Thanks, first of all, for having this. I think it's always a privilege to, do these things for our alma mater. I think that's fantastic. So this is Rishabh this side. I'm co-founder and CEO at Pepper. I think 1st of September 2017 is when Anirudh pitched me the idea after one of my cultural nights, and I think it has been a great journey ever since. I think we are now a team of 70 plus people, all senior folks, junior folks, all dedicated and motivated at the same level, and it has nothing but short of magic for us building this for the past 4 years. I think I now realize that it has been 4 years, and that's a huge long time, but we are still getting started. So I think thanks, and as Anirudh said, that we owe a lot to Bits and Bitsians. So yeah, thanks for having us here.
That's great. Thanks to all of you. So let's start. Could you guys tell us about the motivation behind your company and the basic idea of your company, starting with Pixxel?
So Pixxel is a space technology company, but more specifically, we are what we call a space data company. So there's two critical aspects to that, right? Space and data. We build satellites that we will send to space that will cover the globe and provide images to see how things are changing here. So that's the space aspect. And then we also build the platform and the software tools and the infrastructure that's required to take this imagery and convert that into something actionable here on ground, whether it be making agriculture more efficient, whether it be identifying where pollutants are coming from, identifying deforestation, things like those. So it's a combination of these things that makes Pixxel what it is. We deal with space data, bringing it down from space and making it useful for use here down on Earth. So the inspiration for Pixxel was, when we started with analyzing existing sources of satellite data that we currently had. But the thing we realized was that even though it could do a whole lot of wonderful things like make maps and build digital elevation models and whatnot, it was still lacking when you wanted to solve problems in fields such as agriculture or oil and gas or climate change. You needed something that was much richer in its scope, something that could give you a lot more detail. And we realized that was something that was lacking. What would bridge this gap was a technology called hyperspectral imaging from space. And there was no way of obtaining that. No one had really done that in a commercial manner. So we started out on the journey, said that, if there's a data set that no one else is providing, we'll be the ones to build our own satellites, send these satellites up there and beam down a data set that could provide 50 times more information or detail than what's possible today. So that's briefly about this.
So like, what was the limitation there? Why was it not happened before? Why were they not able to get like high quality images for from the hyperspectral photography? Was there a technological limitation or managerial limitation? Like, what was it?
Kshitij, you want to address it?
Yeah. So, Animesh, if you look at any technological development space, it's usually the space agencies that try it out on an experimental scientific basis first. And then, there's a commercialization cycle, that hockey stick curve that you all talk about. So, over the last decade or so, right, NASA spent a lot of time, money into building out its own hyperspectral systems. Similar work has been done by ISRO as well. Similar work has been done by the European Space Agency as well. And we've seen these scientific payloads go up and perform really well. And we've seen the amount of applications that can come out of hyperspectral imaging. So the time was sort of correct for us to commercialize this technology and bring it into a domain where we can supply this data on a regular basis to our customers. Along with miniaturization in electronics, especially for space, as well as the ease in development, given that costs to go to space have also reduced very drastically over the last 10 years. All of these things converged together at that point, 2018, 2019, when we started out Pixxel. So that's basically been why hyperspectral imaging as a technology hasn't existed on a commercial scale, and that's what we are trying to do. That's the gap that we are trying to bridge in.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. So what about Pepper?
I think back in summer 2017, I was interning at a media company called Your Story. At the same time, I was trying to figure out a way to finance my own education and started freelancing for a lot of US-based platforms, Fiverr, Upwork, Check, all these different platforms, and was able to earn decently good from there, and realized in general, creative professionals, it's always a very secondary or tertiary profession. It's never a primary. And one of the main reasons is there's a lack of opportunities here in India, where there's no one platform that's really addressing a talent marketplace or a work marketplace of sorts. And I realized that there's hundreds and thousands of great young professionals, or even professionals across spectrum of ages, who are looking for a lot of opportunities, but they don't have any. And being a creator or a user for these marketplaces, I realized you need to bid for projects or price yourself ridiculously low to get stuff, and just realized that just didn't seem fair. At the same time, content was a very up and coming play. 2017 was an interesting time in India. Digital was scaling up like crazy. Geo effect had came in, and I think fast forward to today, I think everyone sold on the power of content. Every company is a content company today, and that's why I felt that there's a very beautiful match of being able to empower hundreds and thousands of creators, freelancers, to be able to get meaningful job opportunities, at the same time being able to curate and solve for an on-demand talent for content for businesses. And I think that led to building Pepper. Obviously, when we started out, we didn't have the same level of clarity we have now, but I think it's very beautiful to see how the space has evolved. And I think what the future of work looks like is going to be shaped up by companies like Pepper, where we're helping get creators access to wonderful opportunities using technology, at the same time in an interesting way, interesting tools and so on, to get better at what they do.
Awesome. Nice. Okay, so next I want to ask about the investments. So how did you navigate the matter of obtaining investments in the first place, and how did you attract the funding afterwards? What are your current status? Who are your major investors, competitors? Pixxel.
Sure. So I think, to start off with, I remember having this dinner conversation with my dad. He's like, you have this FD that you have, it's almost come to the point where you have to break it. Do you want to use this to go on a vacation somewhere abroad? And I'm like, no, I probably have a better use for this. And that FD was because, in high school, when I used to get first rank in class, used to give me 3,000. If I came second, 2,000, and third, 1,000. So all of that had been sort of saved and put in an FD. So that really turned out useful while we were beginning to start making prototypes, 3D printing some things and whatnot. So that was where the initial bit came from. But very grateful that, a whole bunch of our initial employees just without anything, any expectations, just came down to Bangalore with us of their own cost, and we started working on it. That helped, but we started with wanting to raise sponsorship first. We wanted to do it as a student team. We'll build a satellite first, raise sponsorship for it, like we did at Hyperloop, like we did at the student satellite team, and then send it up. And then once we have proven that, we will build a company on the basis of that. Was the original idea. And we wanted to do this satellite in about 2 to 3 months, which was quite naive at that point in time. Anyhow, I think we realized somewhere along the line that raising sponsorship for something like this was not going to be a quick or an easy task. So we set up a company and said that we'll raise an investment for this. And it would make sense because there was a whole business plan that came together. We were very clear in terms of where the money would come from. But of course, when we talked to a few venture capital firms at the beginning, they were all interested to take a meeting because space is cool, but nothing moved beyond that. What came to help was in October of 2018, there was this event, Silicon Valley. It was called BITSync. BITSync was an event where all the Bitsians in Silicon Valley came together every year to discuss how things are happening and whatnot. And they also had a startup pitch event where startups would come in and pitch to these folks. And it applied to that just because why not? And we got selected. And there was about a week to go for the event, and we had run out of all of our money. But we were working with this mapping client here in India. And 4 days before the event, we somehow managed to convince this person at this mapping company to be able to fund the ticket for there. Otherwise, we would not have been able to go. So 3 days before the event, the ticket got booked. 2 days before the event, took the flight out. We were the only startup there that was still students at BITS. Everyone else had either been graduated for 5 years or 10 years of pitching. So that helped. But even beyond that, had reached out cold investors to reach out to investors to see if they could take a meeting. Raju Reddy, Prem Jain, the people who have been in BITS for quite some time, and they were very to be able to give the meeting. And the first few commitments came from there. And this was not from a financial perspective. This was that if what we were doing worked out, it would be good for the institute, which we're very grateful for. And on the basis of that momentum, we came back, and then few more investors came on board, and finally we managed to get an institutional investor in GrowX as well. So I think that's how it all started, thanks to the BITS network and the people that are willing to back their own and give it down the line. After that, a year down the line or so, we started the process for a proper seed fundraise. We were coming out of the Techstars accelerator, and we had managed to put together $3.5 million at that point in time. But and then around March, when we were just about to have the last investor sign on the term sheet, the pandemic hit, lockdown started coming in, and then that investor backed out, so we weren't able to close that. Thankfully, in the next couple of months, we took a lot of virtual meetings with Lightspeed, with Bloom, and managed to convert that into a larger round of about $5 million that we later closed. Well, it was a tough thing. So I think it took 4 months for us to put that first round together, and it broke apart, and it took us 3 more months to be able to put this new round together. And at the end of it, we had almost run out of money, and that is a big responsibility, making sure that the people that you have are continuously getting paid. Then it has been relatively easier, where there was interest from others to be able to extend that seed round by about $2 million. That Omnivore came in. AgTech is a big sector for us, so Omnivore being an AgTech VC was an important addition. So I think that's how the fundraising journey has been. We thought it would be easier after we had something to show in the seed round, but it wasn't really the case. And hopefully going ahead as well, you can see that it's never going to be easy. You just need to be prepared and continuously show progress. You're on mute, I think.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. Thanks for your story, Aves. How about Pepper?
I think so. For the starting, we'd been mostly revenue financed. We started in October 2017. By around March 2019, this was at the end of our 3rd year. I think we'd done about 1.25 crores of revenue already, so bootstrapping it till there. We got a chance to interview at Y Combinator. We didn't get in. That's when we decided ki ab to karenge, and we moved to Mumbai, and we had 4-5 people, 5 of us moved to Mumbai. It was a flat below my grandparents' house, And you can imagine those, this a table, 4 or 5 people around it, continuously working around. And at that time I started taking trips to Bangalore, meeting a lot of in general investors and different segments. Obviously initially, no one at that time really understood the scale or what it could be, so had to do a lot of convincing. Spoke to 80 to 100 VCs, angels, all of them. uh, the good thing uh, the good thing was that because in college, and we were still in college, we were still in our fourth year in the first semester. People saw that we had accomplished decently well in terms of building, say, a revenue scalable business. We didn't have a product at that time, and we were really working to build on that. But I think because of the team's conviction, we got a lot of interesting people to participate, and we closed like our first seed round of $300K uh, in about, I think, November. We like doubly oversubscribed at that time, so we were in a fortunate position to get the best people on board. And then I think that's for the first time we took an office, like 25 members seated office. We were wondering, that we'll probably never end up running out of this space because it just looked huge at that time. And 4 months back we just realized that we've outgrown, and I think it started building up very well. Interestingly, COVID accelerated our business because digital adoption was forced to scale, so people invested more in content, and we had very strong momentum. I think we had a Lightspeed investment on the final day of BITS when we were writing our exams. We got a chance to sign the term sheet then, and we closed our last round within 3 days. Just got the right partner in Lightspeed. They're great investors, and yeah, I think we raised about 4.2 million then. I think we've been lucky to get some very good, fortunate investors into Pepper. It is a category creation company. There is no strong precedence as such in terms of someone having successfully done this model, especially in this space before. So I think, like Avais said, it's just continuing at it, and hoping it will work out. And I think it's a lot about you just continuing to go on. And I think the team's done really well in that manner. So today at Pepper, growth's pretty fast. We just closed our monthly revenues in a manner, the amount was equivalent to our 2019 turnover. So going pretty fast now, and yeah, hoping for the best.
Nice. So people are gonna remember this as one of the startups that kind of started in garage, right? So what about the competitors?
Right. I think Rishabh, over to you.
I think, in terms of competitors, Animesha, this market is so huge that, but the problem is that the market is full of fragmented players. So every agency that is, writing content for companies, every individual freelance group of, people that are writing content, they are competition in some sense of the word. But the model that we are trying to replicate, it really isn't being done by many, right? I think there's a couple, I think White Panda and one or two more companies which are, smaller than us. They are trying to do something of the similar, but again, as Anil said, right, we are trying to build a category defining companies, something that hasn't been done before. But I think bigger agencies, the Ogilvy's and the Scatter and the Strangs of the world, right, I think they do something in a more non-tech manner, so we also consider them our competition in some sense. But I think if you have to consider something exactly the same that you're doing, I don't really think there are much examples out there.
Like from a work marketplace lens, you can look at Fiverr and Upwork, who were earlier open marketplaces but are now trying to adopt the managed marketplace that Pepper's adopting. So yeah, that's something we consider from a global benchmark lens.
Yeah. So isn't Upwork also one of your investors?
So we have
the founder of
who used to who's not part of the company anymore. So founded Upwork earlier.
Yeah, thanks. So like now coming into the BITSian context, how does the journey in BITS changed your journey, like shaped your journey for this startup? Pixxel, yeah.
Go ahead, Chitij.
Yeah, so it's pretty much everything, right? If any of the pieces did not go the way they did, probably would not happen the way it happened. So just pretty much everything from coming to bits first and not choosing to do a repeat year, drop year for a better rank in JEE, to just meeting us in second year, spending time together, playing video games, going to VK Ready to eat Maggie like every other day, and talking about all that we talked about. So every little thing that happened kind of led us to where we are. And apart from that, just the kind of support that we've gotten from BITS, it's crazy. So when we look at BITS alumni who have been some of our investors, some of our well-wishers, people who we've been able to talk to about the company, about the market, everything, they've always been there for us. Then when you look at even our team, our employees, our interns, when we started out in 2018, summer of 2018, we just came to Bangalore with absolutely, nothing in hand. And we said that, hey, do you guys want to do a cool project in summer? And there's a lot of people who, decided to come join us, work with us. So we've always been grateful for that. And that's sort of built into the DNA of the company as well. That grit that comes from BITS Pilani, it sort of molds you when you're in that environment. Pilani itself as a town is absolutely nothing. So you are in that environment, you have to learn to fend off yourself. And you're looking at so many high-performing people. You're looking at people doing such amazing stuff all the time. It motivates you, and it always it creates this restlessness when something is boring, or when something is just not exciting enough, when something is not good enough. So it's been amazing, I would say, and BITS has been a very, very big factor in the way we've done things, and we've started out as a company.
So what was your attitude towards the placement and academics like during your working in startup? Were you really serious about that, or just?
So I think for me personally, I had to make sure that I had something in hand because my parents had always told me, like, we don't have a shop or a factory, right, that we can sustain you. So you have to have something so that our retirement or something like that is taken care of. I was like, okay, fine. First day of placement for electronics, I sat for a company, just got a job, and then forgot about it. That gave me the option to properly focus on everything else after that. So attitude towards placement was always like, it feels mediocre sometimes. That it's just you go, you do a 9 to 5 job. It's not that fun. Plus, you don't have a complete idea about what exists and what doesn't. So it was a necessary will at that point of time, I would say. Just getting something, and so that my family that knows that towards this. Didn't think about it after just getting the job. That's it.
How about you, Wes? What was your attitude towards the placement and the academics?
Didn't really think about placements at all. Didn't sit for placements. Didn't think about placements. It was all Pixxel. Pixxel. The idea of it came in third year after the Hyperloop experience, and then just began on that. It was a little bit of a slow start when the concept came out in the third year, but beginning of fourth year, it really sort of took off, and there was nothing else that I sort of wanted to do. I could not work in another company. Like, I wanted to work in space. There was no company that came for placement that was in space, right? So we had to figure out a way of creating that space ourselves. So that was very clear focus there, that there's going to be Pixxel. So I don't need to really sit for placement. That also provided a little bit of a push from the back that need to get everything in place by the time we graduated. So there's about a year from now when Pixxel needs to be at a place where other people also come in and join, and there's some basic level of security there, which was good. In terms of academics, never really paid a whole lot of time there as well. I think for me, BITS was about a couple of things. It was about the freedom to pursue things that you really actually intellectually are curious about. And secondly, the people that are around you that push you to do better things. When you look at other folks that are doing really, really cool stuff and, overachieving, sort of look at them and say, this is something that we can do as well. So having yourself surrounded with that peer group that inspires you and motivates you has been really helpful. Be it the Hyperloop experience where, just randomly going into a senior's room, seeing on the whiteboard that, something about the Hyperloop is written, getting into a discussion there and then starting that team, to, learning how to build a satellite at team one on the student satellite team. So it's predominantly been about that freedom to be able to go out and pursue these things, and also the people that came along with it. So when it came to academics, yes, it's good to have, but for me, that was something that was there in the side, and then the freedom to pursue other things which I was curious about was first, which also meant that when placements came around, didn't really focus at all on them.
Yeah, well, that required kind of guts to do that. So kudos to that. How about Pepper? What was your journey?
Go on, Rishabh, go on.
I think first two things that I'll tell, that the story about Kshitij and placement that we get to hear on the back end is very, very interesting. So I think that can probably be taken offline. And secondly, I think Avas has done all things that came out of, all things cool that came out of BITS, Anand, Hyperloop, and then Pixxel. So I think it's difficult to match these people. But yeah, I think in terms of BITS, one thing that, BITS taught me personally, and I'm a big proponent of that, is like in BITSAA, you had the most fun when you have the best wings, right? Where if the 10 people that you choose to stay with are the people that you love spending time with, you'll have a gala for time, right? Be it anything, be it exams or be it an Oasis, right? I think that's it has always stayed with me that it's always about the people. If you can get the right people in, work doesn't seem like work, right? It's always fun to be around good people. Work happens as a consequence of that. I think first of all that, and I think I think me and Anuj both were very lucky enough to get people around us, even teachers, right, who are very, very sympathetic towards our cause, right? So I remember, innumerable of times, when we were in an assignment or a viva, we just used to start going on about how we don't stay on campus. Although we used to stay on campus, we did, but we were like, we had to go to Bangalore for meetings and all of that. And they were like, acha, and they was a bit impressed in that these kids are trying to do something, so they used to pass us, irrespective of anything, right? So I think that sympathy we got from teachers was great, and then help from our batchmates in terms of making sure we know at least 2 questions, so that we can at least write something in the examinations. So fun fact, right? In the last 1 year of giving examinations, me and Anirudh never probably sat more than 15 minutes or 20 minutes in an exam, because usse zyada kuch aata hi nahi tha, right? So I think that was that. In terms of placements, the seed funding happened in October, November, right? And 2019, and we were due for placements in January. So we opted out of placements altogether, right? But I think, I remember my mom, I think traditional Indian moms, right? They still, and my parents have been very super supportive, but at the end of it, they are Indian parents, so they were like, if a बैठ के तो देख ले क्या पता क्या मिल जाए, right? You अपनी know your worth. But I like, no, ma'am, can't do that now. So I think that was fun, but yeah, overall, pretty chill. I don't think Yenanur really gave much attention to acads. It was just a means to a degree that we wanted, because we had invested so much time and emotions and bits as a thing, but I think nothing more than that. I don't know if you want to add something.
No, I think after Pepper started, I think like I said, I probably never thought about placements at all, because it was just go big or go home type play. And I think once that I think that entrepreneurship bug bites you, then you probably can't see yourself doing that. At least I couldn't. And that's why I put in all in working on on campus. I think there used to be this BITS incubator which used to give you like these like small offices of sorts, and we remember used to sit 12 hours 13 hours doing that. In fact, I spent like probably half of my life with Aves only. We were in the same department. So we used to do a lot of bunch of things around cold calling, cold emailing, and all of that. So that thrill that BITS gives you to have, great inspirational people to see around you and see them do so well, right? Always constantly keeps pushing you better and better. And I think in a third year, we had like a college alum come speak for some session. His name is Mr. Kiran Deshpande. He's an alumni of BITS. He's former CEO of Tech Mahindra. And, he just called us for like this he told us about this interesting boot camp they have for like entrepreneurs in Pune. And, we just went ahead, gave it a shot. And I think that just probably motivated us that there's a world outside BITS as well. And too many things you have to figure out. And yeah, I think then we were just too busy thinking about those things as compared to placements. And luckily, I think it's great about founders. People talk a lot about founders, but one thing I am more impressed about is our founding team members, Himanshu, Adesh, Kishan. These three people also let go of their placements. And while we have like more skin in the game and so on, but the amount of trust, effort they did on us is very defining. Speaking to their parents came from what's in them for them, and being able to demonstrate that faith of courage, I think that requires grit and courage. So very happy that they trusted us, and very happy that we took that decision.
Nice, thanks. So like Pixel, who were your first 5 employees or working friends?
So I think the first 2 employees that came on board were from BITSAA own batch, Manas and Teja. They were also one of those 10 people that came down during the summer down to Bangalore, and we started working on the designing, the prototyping of the satellite, right? But then these were 2 people who also put their trust completely to join Pixxel and get started on that journey. Teja had a conversation with me at the all-night canteen, I remember, where we discussed about the future of Pixxel, and where he said that this is the point that I trust you, and then I won't be sitting for my own placement, so Pixxel is where I would want to come in. That also provided that little bit of responsibility. And Manas also himself left a really good placement that he had gotten to be able to come and join us. And it's people like those that have continued to sustain what we're doing. And when you have people like those that are leading the other people, leading by example, the culture is set right there from the top, right? So I think we're really grateful for these 2 folks. We got a few more people from BITS later on board, but we're also very cognizant to not just make it a very BITSian-centric company. There needed to be some sort of balance that came in from multiple different facets. But I think it's been Manas and Teja who have been really, really integral since the beginning of our journey.
Okay, so like you want 1-word answers, like 2-word answers. If you could pick 2 things from BITSian life that helped you the most for your startup journey, what would they be? Starting with Aves.
2 words, right? So I think 1 would be freedom, and 2nd would be people.
Okay, thanks. So how about you? It could be anything like generic or the clubs, departments, teachers, competition, anything that helped you the most.
Alumni and what else? I don't know.
FIFA.
FIFA, yeah.
How about Anirudh?
I think I'll stick with the tagline, it's magic. I know it's 3, but I think that's what resonates with.
Okay, Rishabh?
I think 1 word that I associate BITS with a lot is flow, right? People, at least in BITS, right, they have plans, a lot of plans as to where they want to go towards, but a lot of people stick to the flow, right? They just take 1 day at a time, and at least my group of friends used to do that, right? They didn't think much about what possibly they should do 6 months down the line. So I think that is what Anirudh also said earlier, right? We do not have such clarity or such huge vision as to where the company was, but we knew it could be something first, and we wanted to invest our times into it, right? I think so. We just jumped into it, take it by day, and I think that got us there. And secondly, I think if I have to choose the second word, it would probably be the clubs departments. I think I personally headed two departments. There's a Bitsman and one of the cultural socks, right? And I think managing 40, 50 people, right? Across ages, across batches, across departments. I think that really gave you a knack for just becoming better folks, as in terms of people dealing. I think so. Clubs departments play a big role. So Anirudh was also one of I think managing one or two departments. I think similar experiences across Avas and Kshitij as well. So I think that really helps you. While building teams. So we are 70 folks, right? So I think I go back to my times where I used to handling if there are any escalations. So I think that was it.
So like you guys started on second year with your startup and then managing two departments in like maybe third, fourth year. How difficult was that? Wasn't it?
Yeah, we gave up on academics, right? So I think you prioritize. So I think every decision that you make in life is a choice of giving up on something else, right? So either you can do good in academics, you need to be okay with it, right? If you make a choice, you be okay with it. So we are okay with being average, mediocre in academics, not having a 8 or 9 CGPA, but we are not okay with not investing a time in Pepper. So I think Pepper took the priority. Then there were these departments, extracurricular. Then there were friends, and then there was academics. So I think that was the priority order for us. But yeah, it's a very personal choice, and you need to be okay with the trade-off. If you're okay with the trade-off, it works out for you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. So what about the pandemic? How is this treating you? How is this treating your business? Pixxel.
Go ahead, Kshitij.
So we've already moved our launch twice now. So it's definitely, pardon my French, but shit. So I hate the pandemic in terms of the fact that a lot of timelines have moved, but we've been able to take a lot of different avenues. We've been able to accelerate our work on a lot of different things during the pandemic. So we found a really efficient way to work together remotely to design space missions. And it's probably one of its kind team, maybe all over the world, that has been designing satellites, that has been designing spacecraft remotely over the last couple of years. So we've been doing that. We've been working on our platform. We've been accelerating our customer outreach. So a lot of things that we had thought would happen after the satellites just took precedence, and we made sure that the business as a whole is running, and it's running efficiently. So it's sort of been a blessing in disguise for a lot of areas that were a little underappreciated by both of us at Pixxel. And apart from that, it just gives us a really good catapult to make much more powerful designs and just directly target the constellation next year. So that's been there. We've hired a lot of people during the pandemic. Like half of our team we ended up hiring during the pandemic, so more than that. So it's sad that you cannot work regularly with these people that you hired, and you cannot spend time with the team that you love. But now that offices are opening up, and hopefully we don't have a third wave, we are planning to just start working in office once again. So that's going to be there. The team has sort of been remote since its inception, because even in 2019, both of us and I, we were in LA, and Manas and Teja were in Chennai. And after that, also like things have just been split. Some people are here, some people are there. But we've always found a way to work together and stick to very sharp deadlines. We love sharp deadlines, and once things get slow, people in the team are themselves like, "Hey, this is too slow. Let's move this quicker." So it's been a bit of both, I would say, the pandemic for us. Yes.
Yeah, so this reminds me, your headquarter is in US, right? LA, because of some government regulations. So how are the regulations right now? Is this helpful, or like is this still a bit not cope up with the space race that the India is planning to go? How is this right now? The government
We have presence in both the countries. We have presence, like I wouldn't say one place is headquartered over the other, but there's presence in both the countries, and they're focused on different things. India is predominantly focused on the manufacturing and the operations bit, because it's just so much more cost effective for us to do that here. Versus when you look at business development and sales, the largest market today is in the US and North America. So, we can't really ignore that, which means we have to have presence there. In terms of the regulations here in India, things are very different how they were in 2019 when we started versus how they are today, because middle of last year in 2020, the government announced its intentions to make India a private space powerhouse as well. Which means that when, as I was mentioning earlier, we were launching the first satellite on a Russian Soyuz rocket. But when the ISRO and Department of Space reached out to us saying it's an Indian satellite, we wanted to launch from India, we shifted that launch back to here, launching on a PSLV rocket from ISRO. They also gave us access to their testing facilities here in Bangalore. So that way, I think they have been really open in helping us out in any way possible to make sure that our satellites go up in space. From a regulatory standpoint, we've had a few draft policies that have come out, which look decently liberal compared to other countries, which is good, which means that liberal policies lead to more innovation. However, until those drafts are converted into actual bills or acts, we'll have to wait and see sort of what changes are brought in. What is needed is making sure that there's complete transparency and complete line of sight on what exactly the policies mandate and what they do not, and also a timeline in terms of how long it takes to obtain these approvals. Space is a regulated domain; you can't really work around that. But even if it's regulated, you need to have a lot of clarity on how much time it's going to take for you to get through that process. Otherwise, you can't keep on waiting for a year or 2 years until the approval is done for you to be able to do something. So that's where we are, I would say, much better than we were 2 years ago, but a year away from having everything in place where there's complete clarity on how to do things here.
Okay, thanks. How about Pepper? How is pandemic treating you guys?
I think, like I said, it's accelerated our business in terms of, because digital adoption has scaled very crazily. So now a lot of businesses who were offline suddenly have to be online to be able to scale. And content's one of the most powerful flywheels for online businesses today. So I think that's really led to a huge scale up in our demand. So I think that's done really well. At the same time, it's also to the cause of how there's a complete remote economy being built out, because as a business back then also we have remote freelancers across each and every segments, and especially after the pandemic, a lot of people were looking at more alternate means of income as well. So that led to like a massive surge in the creator base we had. So there were very strong tailwinds across remote economy, gig economy, online digital from businesses, and that led to I think positive contribution to us.
Okay, that's great to hear. So could you mention any like major failure or challenges that you faced so far?
I think almost being in an entrepreneurial play, it's almost on a daily basis. There's 2-3 good things to be happy about, but really it's all about you firefighting all 10-20 things. So I think it's like a repeat process. You just get better at making the odds in your favor.
Okay, how about Pixxel? Any major failures in your journey?
The biggest one would be that we were not able to launch in February, and it's not like if we miss February, we can launch in March. There's no rocket that's waiting there for us to go up in March, right? Which means if we miss February, now we are launching in October. So I think that was the biggest thing. We lost a lot of testing time due to the pandemic, where we couldn't do anything in person, and it's a thing that requires testing in person. We were running against the clock, obviously, when we were trying to launch in February here. However, we went through a whole bunch of tests that showed that the satellite is working as it's supposed to be. It went through the thermo vacuum chamber testing, it went through the hardware in the loop simulations and all those things that it needs to go through. Final day of when we were supposed to ship the satellite to the launch site, we ran into some software issues, and it just made sense for us to not rush it through. We've spent a lot of time and effort on this, and if something is not working as it's supposed to here, it would make sense for us to take a step back. So I think that would be the biggest setback. I would say nothing is a failure as such. It's a large setback in terms of the timeline. We ideally like to keep very ambitious timelines and adhere to those. And missing that launch meant that our launch got pushed by quite a few months, something that's not in our control. You have to wait for when the next rocket is going to go up to an orbit that we require it to go up to. We can't just put it on the next immediate rocket because that might not be the orbit we wanted. So I think that's the biggest setback that we might have had in our journey.
One more I would say is, Aves mentioned during our fundraising, right, our round fell apart somewhere around the beginning of last year. And there was a time period where we had to delay salaries by 15-20 days for a lot of our employees. And that's just not ideal. That's not the way we like to work. So that was a little bit of a setback. It was a very stressful period for all of us. And thankfully, we were able to, Bloom and Lightspeed came in and we were able to pull that round together. But yeah, that's one other thing that I like to probably do that.
Yeah. Okay. So like what is your current vision for the company? How is it gonna be at the very final stage? Pixel.
The very final stage is big. Like our vision statement is there's two vision statements, one for the next 5 years and one for the next 50 years. The one for the next 5 years is to build a health monitor for our planet. And when we say health monitor for our planet, it's to be able to see how things are changing on Earth, how we can use that information to take better decisions to make the world a more sustainable place. Taking a real world example, agriculture. With our data, we'll be able to see how the nutrient content is changing in the soil, how the crops are growing, how many of them are being affected by pests or diseases. All that can be used to make better decisions when you try to grow them next year. So building a health monitor for the planet is what we want to do with our own satellites as well as the software platform. But in the next 50 years, it's to accelerate humanity's advance into space, humanity's expansion into space. And like there's a step-by-step process to that. One, the same imaging satellites that we are building and taking images of the Earth with a few additions and improvements, the same can be sent out for scouting missions in the solar system. So there are a lot of modifications. Obviously, you need iterations and improvements, but to be able to send out a swarm of these satellites to say, okay, we're going to send it out to the asteroid belt and see which of these asteroids actually contain the minerals or the materials that are required for us to build things in space. It's the next logical step for us. There are companies already looking at building space stations, space habitats, doing space manufacturing. You have NASA trying to build this Artemis thing around the moon. We will see people going to Mars in the next 20, 30 years. And for us to be able to do all that and build all that, you can't take materials from Earth because then it defeats the whole purpose. We want to make this world a better place, which means that the material has to come from space. So identifying these materials becomes the next step. And whoever owns the map to the solar system then has the mandate to be able to go out and extract those materials. So I think in the next 50 years is to accelerate humanity's expansion into space through mining minerals in space for use in space. But our focus for the next 5 years is build this health monitor for the planet because everything else depends on this foundation.
Okay, so like these images you capture and you said that you have to monitor the health. So the algorithms, the artificial intelligence that is going to be needed in these pictures. So that's also provided by Pixxel itself, or you just outsource, like sell your pics to someone so that they can do anything that they needs to be doing with the pictures. Yeah.
Did you want to take this?
Sure. So, Animesh, our goal is to, provide a clear path from the satellite to the customer's desktops in case of what they want to do and if they want to work with the data to identify what they want to identify. We're not a services company, so we're not going to be like, we will make a map of your backyard and tell you what car is where. However, what we do want to do is make things easier for our customers, make things easier for people who want to work with this data. Hyperspectral imagery as a technology itself is a little difficult to work with. It's more exotic, it's more sophisticated because there's 100 times more information in comparison to what you get with your normal red, green, blue imagery that you capture on your phones. And to work with that, the customers don't need to have teams of scientists and a fleet of scientists building out these algorithms and building out the entire infrastructure to work with the data. So we do that for them. We do data correction. We provide a platform where customers can access tools built by Pixxel to build things like time series models or just identify crop health status, things like that. We also give our own ML models for these customers to use. and they can also build their own on the platform. So, providing this end-to-end solution for the customer, instead of just leaving them with data and just telling them, okay, fine, here's the data, now you decide what to do with it. So that's something that we wanted to do. We wanted to build out this platform. We wanted to provide the tools for the customers to work with. And yeah, that's what we do.
Okay, thank you very much. How about Pepper? What is your vision for the company right now?
So I think for us, we want to become the world's largest content creation and distribution platform, where essentially we want to end up becoming an extended content team for any kind of setup, for a small business through a self-serve marketplace we're building, and for a larger business or an enterprise through a SaaS-enabled marketplace. We believe in one single philosophy. There's only two kinds of customers: people who use Pepper and people who will use Pepper. So that's what we believe in.
Okay, so you are you going to enlarge your content feed from just written contents to videography and
Right. So currently Pepper operates in three categories. It's content writing, graphic design, and language, which is translations. We're just going to be launching these categories out there in the world soon. Early next year, we'll move into video and audio. So the first 3 years of our of the next 3 years look like us scaling across each and every content format. Once that happens, then we'll also evolve into marketing, where we'll create professional talent stacks of different marketing functions as well over time, because at the end everything ties down to content. So content creation was always the foot in the door for us.
okay. So finally, what will be your advice for your juniors which are going to plan to start a startup and start a company? Like, what should they do? How should they spend their time right now? Or maybe for your batches, your seniors that are in the company right now and they are thinking to do something else from this 9-to-5 job. So yeah, hi, Pixxel.
I think it's fairly simple. Figure out what you love doing, what you absolutely love doing. Take your time to be able to figure that out. I think the first 2 to 3 years at Pixxel, at BITS, gave me that. It made me crystallize that space is where I wanted to be. So take time to figure out what you actually want to do and what is it that you love doing. And then how are you going to get there? And then just get started on that journey. You don't need to have all the pieces of the puzzle in place. You don't need to be able to see 10 years down the line. If you know that this is something that you love doing and this is something that you would want to do, this is something that makes you excited to wake up and go do every day, then just get started on that. Getting started is 60-75% of the thing. Once you get started, the momentum will sustain you. When we started out Pixxel, we had no idea, how we would put together the money or something else. We just put together a team of people, and then got started on the journey. And that has sort of led to where we are. So figure out what you love and then just get started on, getting where you want to get.
Okay, and Pepper, what about you?
I think two things, I think what I've realized over time is it's eventually the people that build the business. So, finding the right people to start with is very important. So, building comfort and making sure they're as equally passionate about, wanting to make, say, a dent in the universe. If there's people like that, you're able to stick with them. And, I think that's really important, getting the right people. And second, this is not a short-term game. It's not 2 years, 3 years, and you get rich and so on. It's a fight for 5 to 10 years on a minimum basis. So if you're starting out and once you're convinced that this is the path, be ready for sticking this to the next 5 to 10 years on a minimum basis. So it's a long-term play. So just think about these two things.
How about you, Chitij?
But no, on a more serious note, I think the most important piece here is to not be scared of taking leaps of faith. You'll never be 100% sure about anything. People who say they're 100% sure about something are not 100% sure about what they're sure about. So, you have to take those leaps of faith, and you don't have to be scared of doing that. Keep trying new things, and just be more kind to people because, it creates a lot of social equity or something like that. So it just brings a lot more kindness back to you. So I think those are a few things. but yeah, don't be scared of taking leaps of faith. That's what I would say.
Rishabh.
And my advice would be that it's okay to be the 9 to 5. I think we have glorified and glamorized entrepreneurship way too much. And I think if someone is happy doing a 9 to 5, it's really, really okay. I think you should not buy into the, narrative that that is bad and, this is the thing everyone should do. I think, again, as Kshitij and Avais and Anirudh said, right, if you really like doing something, go for it. But at the end of it, it should be for the thing that you're doing, not for the end purpose. Right? I think as a group, as a ecosystem, we need to really tell what really entails building a startup. I'm pretty sure even Pixxel, Avas and Kshitij building a space edge startup, cutting edge startup, and that probably will foray into space. They have to do a lot of shitty work, but they do for the love of it, and not because they end up being cool or they end up want to become Elon Musk or whatever that is, right? So I think you need to really, really tell people what building a company is like. It's 70%, doing mundane, repetitive tasks. It's 30% doing something that is, world changing in the sense, right? So I think that is one thing, and I think a lot of pressure is being put on college folks to, start doing something very, very early. If it's healthy, it's good, but it shouldn't lead to them being, feeling left out. I think at the end of it, college, if they are happy and they're having fun in college, it works out, especially in a place like BITS. So I think, thoda sa wahan pe, I think we need to calm down a bit. I strongly feel that. But overall, yeah, if you love something and if your gut says so, go for it.
So, what do you think is the most important thing for a startup? Is it the idea, the team, the execution, implementation, or the funds? What according to you is the major thing?
It's the people in the company.
Yeah, always the thing. Yeah.
It's the people that you build the company with. Like that sets the culture, that sets the tone, that sets the pace of work that you do. So I would say it's like the people that you build the company with.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm all out of questions. Let's see if there are any questions from the audience. If someone wants to ask any question, you can put them in the chat.
We should have told our interns to ask questions. We should have told our interns to.
We should have used Pepper to generate some questions beforehand.
Yeah, we have Pepper type.
Try doing it right now.
Okay, so I think we have covered everything. No one has anything else to ask. So we can close the session. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Anyway, thank you for having us here. It was a great chatting.
Thanks, Rishabh. Thanks, Kshitij. Thanks,
everyone. Bye-bye.
Meet you all soon. We'll have another session at your launch, hopefully.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.